The graduation cap hadn't even hit the ground when my father's words shattered my world. "Get out. You're a disappointment." He threw my duffel bag onto our front lawn, my clothes spilling across the grass my mother had meticulously maintained for her garden club competitions. No daughter of mine wastes 4 years studying business innovation instead of law. I stood there in my graduation gown, still clutching my diploma from Stanford University. Behind him, my mother wrung her hands, torn between maternal instinct and wifely obedience. My younger sister Sophia watched from her bedroom window, smirking. She was the good daughter, pre-law at Harvard, following our father's carefully planned path. "Dad, please, I tried one last time. My degree isn't worthless. I have job offers. From tech startups." He spat the words like they were poison. "While your sister has interviews at top law firms. You had everything handed to you, Megan, and you threw it all away." "Everything handed to me?" I wanted to laugh. I'd worked 3 jobs to put myself through college after he'd cut off my tuition sophomore year. Meanwhile, Sophia's Harvard education was fully funded, complete with a luxury apartment and new car. "Robert," my mother finally spoke up, "maybe we should." "No." He cut her off. "She made her choice. Now she can live with it." I picked up my duffel bag, gathering my scattered belongings. 10 steps from our front door to the sidewalk. 10 steps that would change everything. "When you fail," he called after me, "don't come crawling back." I turned back one last time, memorizing the scene. Our sprawling Victorian house, my father's red face, my mother's averted eyes, Sophia's triumphant smile. "Don't worry," I said quietly. "You'll never see me crawl." That night I slept on my best friend Ashley's couch, using my graduation gown as a blanket. As I lay there staring at the ceiling, I made myself a promise. One day they'd regret this moment. I had $827 in my bank account, a degree my father thought was worthless, and an interview scheduled at a small tech startup called Innovate Tech. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The next morning I changed into my one professional outfit, a simple black dress I'd bought from a thrift store, and headed to my interview. Innovate Tech's office was nothing impressive. A small suite in a rundown building with mismatched furniture and walls covered in white boards. The CEO Sarachan was nothing like I expected. No power suit, no corner office, just a brilliant woman in jeans and a t-shirt, who saw potential where others saw risk. "Your thesis on disrupting traditional real estate investment through technology is fascinating," she said, gesturing to my portfolio. "Most people think real estate tech is just about listing apps. You see the bigger picture." I got the job, junior innovation strategist. The salary was minimal, but it came with something more valuable: equity in the company. My father would have called it worthless paper. I called it opportunity. For the next 2 years, I lived in a tiny studio apartment, eating ramen and working 18-hour days. While Sophia posted photos of her luxury law school life on Instagram, I was building something revolutionary. A platform that would change how people invested in real estate. Innovate Tech's big break came in our 3rd year. Our platform caught the attention of major investors, and suddenly that worthless paper was worth millions. But I wasn't done. I had bigger plans. I started buying properties through shell companies, using the technology we'd developed to identify undervalued assets. Every time my family posted about their perfect life, I acquired another building. Every dismissive comment about my career fueled another investment. They had no idea that their perfect daughter's path wasn't so perfect. Sophia was struggling in law school, barely maintaining the grades needed to keep her spot. My parents poured money into tutors, test prep, anything to keep their dream of a lawyer daughter alive. I learned this through the family grapevine, mainly my Aunt Clara, the only one who'd stayed in touch after my exile. She kept me updated on their lives, though I never asked. "Your father's law practice isn't doing well," she told me over coffee one day, 5 years after graduation. "The market's changed, but he won't adapt." They had to downsize, move into an apartment building downtown. I nodded, not mentioning that I'd already known this. I knew everything about Highland Towers, the building they'd moved into. I knew its maintenance history, its occupancy rates, its potential value after renovation. "The rent keeps going up," Aunt Clara continued. "Your mother's worried they might have to move again." I hid my smile behind my coffee cup. Of course the rent was going up. Highland Towers was owned by one of my shell companies, though the property manager was under strict instructions to treat the Walters family like any other tenant. 7 years after graduation, Innovate Tech went public. My equity stake was worth over $50 million. I was now CEO of my own real estate investment firm, with a portfolio worth hundreds of millions. But my family still thought I was probably working some entry-level tech job if they thought of me at all. Then came the day I'd been waiting for. Miss Stevens, my assistant Emma called from her desk. Highland Towers property manager is on line 1. Apparently, there's a tenant making a scene about the latest rent increase. I pressed the speakerphone button, already knowing what I'd hear. This is unacceptable. My father's voice boomed through the speaker. I demand to speak to the owner. This is the 3rd increase in 2 years. The property manager, following my long-standing instructions, remained professional. Sir, the owner is a private investment firm. They set market rate rents for all properties. Do you know who I am? I'm Robert Walters. I've been practicing law in this city for 30 years. I smiled, remembering similar rants from my childhood. How many times had he used his name and position to intimidate others? I'm sorry, Mr. Walters, but the rent increase will take effect next month as scheduled. Then get me a meeting with the owner. I'll show them exactly what kind of tenant they're dealing with. I picked up the phone. Emma, tell the property manager to schedule the meeting. It's time. Are you sure? She asked. She knew my history, knew what this meant. Yes, I replied, looking at the framed photo on my wall, me at graduation before everything fell apart. Schedule it for next week. Emma, make sure the conference room has a clear view of the city. That night I stood in my penthouse apartment looking out over the city lights. Somewhere down there my father was probably ranting about unfair rent increases, my mother was calculating their dwindling savings, and Sophia, who'd finally graduated law school but couldn't pass the bar exam, was living in their spare room. 10 years ago, they'd thrown me out with nothing but a duffel bag and a worthless degree. Next week they'd learn exactly what that degree had built. I picked up my phone and called Aunt Clara. It's time, I said. Do you want to be there? She laughed. Wouldn't miss it for the world, honey. Someone needs to film their faces when they realize who they've been paying rent to all these years. I hung up and opened my laptop, reviewing Highland Towers financials one more time. The building needed renovations. Renovations that would normally require all tenants to temporarily relocate. Perhaps it was petty, but I'd been planning this moment for 10 years. Every detail had to be perfect. The morning of the meeting I chose my outfit carefully. A custom-made Chanel suit that cost more than 3 months' rent at Highland Towers. Every detail mattered today. My office occupied the entire top floor of a gleaming downtown tower, one of the many properties in my portfolio. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows I could actually see Highland Towers, a modest building that represented so much more than just another investment. They're here, Emma announced through the intercom. Your father is demanding. I smiled. Let them wait 10 minutes, then bring them up. Those 10 minutes were delicious torture. Through the security feed I watched my father pace the lobby, checking his Tag Heuer watch, the same one he'd shown off at my graduation right before throwing me out. My mother sat rigidly in a lobby chair, her designer bag a poor imitation of luxury. Sophia tapped away on her phone, probably updating her carefully curated social media image of success. Finally I nodded to Emma. Show them in. The conference room doors opened and my family stepped into my world. Their expressions shifted from irritation to awe as they took in the spectacular view, the expensive furnishings, the clear trappings of power. Welcome to Stevens Investment Group, I said, not turning around from my position at the window. We're here to see the owner, my father announced, his lawyer voice in full effect. Not some junior. I turned around slowly, enjoying every microsecond of recognition dawning on their faces. Megan, my mother whispered, her hand flying to her throat. Hello, mother. Father. Sophia. I smiled, gesturing to the chairs. Please sit. We have much to discuss. They stood frozen, their brains struggling to process what they were seeing. Sophia recovered first, her face twisting into a sneer. This has to be a joke, she said. You can't be. The owner of Highland Towers? The CEO of a multi-billion-dollar investment firm? The landlord you've been complaining about for the past 2 years. I sat down at the head of the table. I'm all of those things and so much more. My father's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. Impossible. You were nothing. A disappointment. A disappointment with a worthless degree, I corrected. Who now owns the building you live in, along with about 30% of the city's premium real estate portfolio? But, my mother stammered, you never said anything. All these years. Why would I? You made it clear I wasn't part of the family anymore. Remember? I pulled out a file. Now about that rent increase you wanted to discuss. This is ridiculous, my father exploded. You can't. Can't what? Raise the rent to market rate? Require all tenants to temporarily relocate for necessary renovations? Actually, I can. It's all perfectly legal. I smiled. You're a lawyer, Dad. You should know that. Sophia leaned forward, her Harvard-trained mind finally catching up. Wait? Renovations? We'd have to move. For about 6 months, I confirmed. Unless, of course, you'd prefer to terminate your lease early. Though finding comparable housing in this market might be challenging. You wouldn't dare, my father growled. We're family. I stood up slowly, placing both hands on the table. Family? Was I family when you threw me out after graduation? When you cut off my tuition? When you told everyone I was a failure? My mother started to cry, dabbing her eyes with an expensive handkerchief. Sweetheart, we were just trying to guide you. Guide me? I laughed. You were trying to control me. Force me into the life you wanted. Well, guess what? My worthless degree built this. I gestured to the office, the view, the empire they could see but couldn't quite believe. While you were pouring money into Sophia's law school dreams, I was building something real. Sophia flinched. We all knew she'd failed the bar exam 3 times now. How much? My father finally asked, his voice hoarse. Excuse me. How much is your company worth? How much are you worth? Of course that would be his first real question. I smiled. Stevens Investment Group manages over $4 billion in assets. My personal net worth. I paused for effect. Last time Forbes checked, about $500 million. My mother actually gasped. Sophia's phone slipped from her fingers. Now, I continued, pulling out another file, let's discuss your options. Option 1. Accept the rent increase and temporary relocation during renovations. Option 2. Break your lease and find new housing immediately. Option 3. I paused, letting them lean in hopefully. You can beg. Beg? My father's face darkened. I will never. Then I guess we're done here. I stood up. Emma will show you out. Wait, my mother burst out. Please, Megan. We were wrong. We see that now. Please don't do this to us. I sat back down slowly. Do what exactly? Treat you the way you treated me? Make you feel powerless? Homeless? We're sorry, Sophia said, but I could see the calculation in her eyes. She wasn't sorry, she was scared. Sorry doesn't pay the rent, I replied, using the exact words my father had thrown at me when I'd begged for help during college. But maybe we can work something out. Hope flickered across their faces. I'll maintain your current rent rate, no increase, on 3 conditions. I held up one finger. First, you publicly acknowledge how wrong you were about me. Every social media post bragging about Sophia's law career gets balanced with one about my success. My father started to protest, but my mother gripped his arm. Second, another finger, you'll attend the opening of our new Tech Innovation Center next month. The one being built where your old law office used to be. You'll smile for photos and tell everyone how proud you are of your entrepreneurial daughter. Sophia's face twisted with jealousy, but she stayed quiet. And third, my father ground out. Third, I smiled, every year on the anniversary of my graduation you'll host a dinner. You'll invite everyone who heard you call me a disappointment. And you'll tell them exactly how wrong you were. The silence stretched out, heavy with a decade of karma. And if we refuse? My father finally asked. I shrugged. Then the rent increases take effect next month. Renovations begin in 60 days. And you'll have to explain to all your country club friends why you're living in a budget motel. My mother broke first. We'll do it. My father's jaw clenched, but he nodded stiffly. Perfect. I pressed the intercom. Emma, please bring in the new lease agreements. As they signed the papers, I noticed Sophia typing frantically on her phone. A quick glance at my own showed she was already updating her social media. So proud of my amazing sister Megan. Her business success inspires me every day. #businesswoman, #proudsister, #success. I bit back a laugh. Some things never change. After they left, Aunt Clara called. Well, they caved, I told her. Though Dad looked like he was swallowing glass. Good, she said firmly. They needed this wake-up call. Your mother's been insufferable at garden club, always bragging about Sophia while pretending you don't exist. That evening I stood in my penthouse watching the sun set over my city. My phone kept buzzing with notifications as relatives and old family friends suddenly remembered my existence. My mother had already called 3 times, probably to invite me to lunch at her country club. I ignored them all. Instead, I opened my laptop and began drafting plans for Highland Towers renovation. Nothing too dramatic, just enough improvements to remind them monthly who held the power now. The next morning, a delivery arrived at my office. My father's Tag Heuer watch with a note. You've proven your point. Can we start over? I sent it back with my own note. Keep it. I prefer Patek Philippe. Over the next few months, I watched my family adapt to their new reality. My father started bragging about his visionary daughter to his colleagues. My mother added my Harvard Business School acceptance letter, which I'd turned down for Stanford, to her wall of family achievements. Sophia even tried to pitch me a legal tech startup idea. I maintained a polite distance, attending the required family functions, accepting their forced apologies. But we all knew things would never be the same. They'd shown me who they really were 10 years ago, and no amount of retrospective pride could change that. 1 year later, I hosted a party in my penthouse, a celebration of Stevens Investment Group's latest acquisition. As my guests mingled, enjoying champagne and caviar, I overheard my father telling someone, I always knew Megan would be successful. She gets her business sense from me. I caught his eye across the room and raised my glass slightly. He had the grace to look embarrassed. Later that night, after everyone had left, I found a photo from my graduation day, the last picture taken before everything fell apart. In it, I'm smiling, unaware that my world was about to shatter. I placed it next to a recent magazine cover featuring me as 40 under 40, the future of real estate. The contrast made me smile. Sometimes the best revenge isn't making people pay. It's making them watch you succeed despite their best efforts to break you. My father still practices law, though most of his clients have moved on to younger firms. My mother still hosts garden club meetings, though now she has to brag about both daughters equally. Sophia finally passed the bar exam on her 4th try, but she's stuck in a junior position at a small firm. Me? I just bought another building. This one has a perfect view of their apartment. After all, what's the point of being a landlord if you can't keep an eye on your most interesting tenants?